and good afternoon. My name's Tristan Lowe. Welcome back to the Over 40s Fitness Podcast, and I've got my good friend with me today, Marc Finney.
Nice to meet you, mate.
How you doing, Marc? Good to see you.
Top man. Thanks ever so much for the invite, mate.
My pleasure. Yeah,
great to meet you.
Okay, so what we're doing today, this is Marc's my first guest that I've had on the podcast, and Marc comes from a strength and conditioning background, of which we'll start and listen to Marc's story. All right, shoot, far away.
Well, it started way back in, oh crikey, when did I graduate? 1997.
Yeah. And where did you graduate?
Just down the road at Lincoln.
Oh, right.
So did a sort of exercise physiology sort of pathway. But my heart and soul was always in coaching.
Yeah.
At 21, I was a very keen footballer. Played local football actually, just
right.
down the way from here.
Yeah.
I had a spell at Icombe Town.
Yeah. So are you like one of these yellow? Yeah, I'm from London. Marc, are you a yellow belly from Lincoln or what?
No, not at all. I'm actually a Derbyshire boy.
All right,
bred
okay.
From Buxton.
Buxton.
Where the water
is.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Good stuff. So yeah, just took that pathway of sport and exercise science. I actually had a nasty leg break when I was 21, and then got no physiotherapy. So through sort of educating myself, wanting to rehabilitate, that's how my skill sets, some of my skill sets, and that keenness to learn more about rehabilitation, that's where it grew from. So then, as part of my role, I was then lecturing as part of my role at Lincoln College. I was then sort of subcontracted to go and help out at Lincoln City Football Club. So
when you were lecturing, was that anatomy and physiology or movement exercise?
A&P, a lot of practical stuff, a lot of football coaching, nerve and muscle physiology, that sort of thing.
Right.
And that was awesome. Great grounding, great foundation in sort of what was happening in the human body and how it adapted to training. But my real passion led in actually getting in front of people and doing the applied stuff.
Yeah.
So I was then subcontracted, like I said, part of my timetable, my hours was to go down and offer some, we called it fitness coaching then, but ultimately it was consultancy work around getting the Lincoln City footballers prepared for games, prepared in the week. So I was doing some very, very basic sort of strength training.
What league were they in at the time?
They would have been Division 3.
Division 3.
We're going back to 2000, so that would have been under Phil Stantz and George Foster. I think I started there with those guys.
Were they classed as professional Division 3?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And they had a real good squad, good physiotherapy support.
Yeah.
But to bring the fitness coaches in was a little bit different. They weren't called strength and conditioning specialists now, or they're now probably more labelled about being a sports scientist, and then you've got the strength and conditioning people and the head of performance. These departments have really grown exponentially now. Yeah. But back then it was somebody that came in, threw some cones down and did a little bit of acceleration work. Yeah, it was very, very, and particularly at that level because they didn't have a massive budget for it.
Sure. Okay.
It was quite archaic, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I went in with a fresh pair of eyes and tried to do things based on the new methods that was coming through. So very much.
How'd that go down?
Yeah, you're always met with a little bit of resistance, and I was only very young at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I was only I'd not been graduated very long.
So you're young, you're newly qualified with new ideas.
Absolutely.
And those three things alone, you can get pushback.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I did. I could tell you some interesting stories about when you're trying to bring in those methods, and you straight away you learn to see exactly where you fit into the framework of things.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the most important thing is that the boys are fit and well and ready to play. Doesn't matter what you want to do with them in the working week.
Yeah.
So it's a steep learning curve for a strength and conditioning coach.
Who was the final say?
Always
with the manager?
Well, yeah, the manager, and Phil was very, very direct. I remember. Yeah. I'll tell you the story. I can remember doing in pre-season, and we'd mapped out the schedule, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. This periodised plan where we're going to undulate the load, and we're going to try and build their fitness up. And we took them to South Common.
Right.
Big group of lads. And we set them off on this aerobic run where they had to go down to the bottom, up across the top, and then back in.
Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of a debrief with the boys. I'm there, I've got my Lincoln City kit on. I thought, I've landed, I've made it. I've got MF on my shorts.
You're on South
all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So I said, right, lads, I just want your best effort. One lap, go round as quick as you can, and that'll give us some targets to work on. We'll see what our baseline's like in terms of aerobic fitness. It's going to give us some direction going forward. Yeah. Okay, off you go. So they've all give it some, and they've gone off and they've gone
Sprint
up and
run.
around. Yeah, probably about a 20-minute run.
Yeah.
And they've put a massive kick in at the end to give them their best time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I've got my stopwatch, and I'm just going to record their times as they're coming through the line. As soon as those lights come through, Phil Stamp steps in front of me and goes, round again, round again. And he just like, and I was like,
old school.
oh my God, old school, yeah. So they're going, Marco, what was...
And they've given it everything to do one lap.
Absolutely, yeah. Just empty the tank. So
Interesting.
that's when you very quickly realise it doesn't matter what you've got planned.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, the gaffer.
Yeah.
I wonder how that relates nowadays, though.
Well, I mean, from more recent experience, the whole backroom staff is far better connected.
They've got to work together. There has to be some kind of symbiosis with a team, whether it be the structure, the physiology, the training, the strength, recovery, even down to the finances and the ethos of the team. Otherwise, the machine breaks down.
Absolutely.
What year are we at now, then?
Yeah.
What year is this?
So that would have been about 99, 2000.
All right, okay.
I'd only been graduated a few years.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
but it was an awesome experience. So yeah, fast forward a little bit, and I then lectured for about 4 or 5 years, and then I actually got headhunted for a job with a company called SAQ International, and that was, you probably see, the suspension training.
Yeah.
A lot of that came from SAQ, the quick feet, the
Yeah.
ladders, the hurdles.
Yeah.
And I worked as a training director and sports scientist for those guys for
Excellent.
about 4 years.
Yeah.
Then just had another spell back in teaching.
Is that a British or American firm?
They were an English firm set
Okay.
up in Melton Mowbray.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely fantastic because I was able to go all over the country delivering and presenting.
Yeah.
So you're earning your stripes.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, it's quite an apprenticeship when you then stood in front of 40, 50 people, and I was put in front of Royal Marine Commandos.
So it's what is it? Speed, agility, quickness, mobility.
Quickness, yeah.
And this does this go across different sports as well?
100%, yeah. It was multi-sports all the way through youth athletic development, all the way through to even people with special educational needs and disabilities. Yeah, it was a very broad programme, but it got a bit saturated.
Yeah.
I think the market got a bit saturated, but we were delivering one-day courses. We had a diploma which I helped write, and that also opened a bigger network for me.
Yeah.
I really absorbed myself in strength and conditioning at that point.
What age are you now?
I would have been sort of mid-late 20s then.
Yeah.
So you're putting a lot of miles in on the road and travelling around. Yeah, absolutely. This was before family.
Yeah.
And then actually we got married, wife, and then she fell pregnant with Grace.
The same year?
Now 18.
Yeah. Okay.
And then at pretty much the same time, couple of years later, an opportunity came up where I got asked to go and be a senior strength and conditioning coach at a rugby club in Northampton.
So you're switching from football to rugby?
Absolutely. So no background in rugby whatsoever.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah.
I didn't even play the game. Did bits and pieces at school, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But
you're going into a full contact sport as well now.
Correct. Yeah. The demands are very, very different, but there is a lot of crossover. So it's still a running based sport. It's very multi-directional. And my area of expertise was speed and power. Okay. So transferring that into a rugby context, you have to have a bit more imagination. You have to appreciate that you're working with bigger men, bigger loads. So there was a lot of that for me to try and upskill in. But I had no technical knowledge of the game.
Interesting.
Massive.
And they still took you on?
Absolutely, yeah. And so I think because I went in with no preconceived ideas, I didn't know who these players were because I come from a footballing background. Yeah. I was able to hit the ground running.
Any obstacles?
Not a great deal, to be honest. I think at that point they were in a position, Northampton, they'd just been recently promoted again. They dropped down into the Championship, but they'd come back into the Premiership. Yeah. And there'd been pretty much new backroom staff, new head coach, new assistant coaches.
Well, it's a well-known team. I mean, I'm not a rugby. I'm not a rugby man. You know, I only know what I hear from you. And I knew of the Northampton Saints. You know, so
amazing history. Yeah, incredible history. And it only dawned on me once I got there and I saw Franklin's Gardens, and then when it's filled to capacity and what was going on and just the level of what I was experiencing. Yeah.
What was the nationality of most of the players at the time?
We had a pretty mixed squad, but Southern Hemisphere players. Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand.
Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, we had a lot of Polynesian players as well.
Big lads.
Massive boys. Yeah. Always a pleasure to work with. Amazing individuals. But yeah, massive eye opener. We had a big squad.
Okay.
But like you talked about, the synergy between that developed over time. So the working with the connection with the physios, the osteopathy, the analysts, the coaching and support staff. That really, really grew, and that was basically because of the head coach. He was driving that.
Sure.
Jim Mallender, he got a real vision for what he wanted to do.
What kind of funding? What's a budget in those days for a team of that scale for the backroom for the?
It's very different to football. It's very, very different to football, and there's actually a cap on the level of what you can spend on a squad. Yeah,
Gotcha. Is that run throughout the league?
Yeah, correct. Some people might say that some people are a little bit flexible what that cap might be. Controversial, but that's the budget that you work up to.
Is that a cap including salaries or cap just on the condition of the players?
No, that would be salary, wages, and everything.
Why is that? Is that to make it fair and create some parity across the league?
I think so, and to prevent it snowballing to something that is unsustainable.
Sure, interesting. Yeah, that's probably actually in the long term that's probably for the better then.
Yeah, and I think if you then compare it with the leagues that are overseas, and particularly in France, they don't have the cap.
Right.
But you're still competing with those teams on the European competition. So you might come up against a Toulon or a Racing team or Toulouse, all those teams, and they've got multi-million-pound budgets.
Gotcha.
But you're still working within the constraints of what you're allowed
Sure.
in the Premiership in the UK, and you do the best that you can. And we were very, very good. We actually got to a Heineken Cup final in 2012. Which was an amazing experience. Just got picked to the post by Leinster.
So you're at Franklin Gardens, in Franklin Gardens. All right, you're part of this big movable feast because it has to move around the country and overseas as well. So if you were going from Northampton right up to the top of the UK or even overseas, how many bodies are we looking at, including the backroom staff?
Yeah, so you've got your match day squad, which is 23 players, and then you'd have some travelling reserves, which is normally a carload of 4 or 5 players just to cover key positions. But then your backroom staff, you've got your kit man. And then you've got your physiotherapy teams, normally about 3 would travel. You probably have a massage therapist as well. And then you've got your technical staff, probably 3 or 4 individuals, and then 1 or 2 strength and conditioning coaches as well. Your analyst team, all piling up there.
Do they have like separately from the manager, do they have an assistant manager, like an assistant coach, like I see in football as well?
You normally have your technical coaches specialising in a particular area. So you'd have a forwards specific, and then you have a backs.
Gotcha.
Attack and defence. But now there's more people, scrum specialists coming in, line out specialists, skills coaches coming in.
Right.
And then there's people like myself who consult more on the performance side of things as well, about how you're managing the week, how you're managing the load of the players, bringing in fresh ideas about how you can probably just get a little bit more out of them. And normally it's about recovery, to be honest.
What in your opinion, for you as an individual, we're talking not as part of the team now, purely for Marc Finney, what was your success for yourself within the Saints, within that organisation, if any?
No, I had 10 years there, and it was incredible. And certainly to experience the things that we did. We went all the way in 2014, got to the final again, the big final, and we were successful and we won it. So that's nearly 10 years
superb.
ago. So to be a part of that and part of that backroom staff, I can still say is very proud of that moment. Okay,
we're going to change. We're going to not come up with any names to protect the innocent. Give us one comical or memorable moment that happened in 10 years at that elite level in rugby that you worked in, but don't name names. Something we'll call him John or James or Polynesian.
It was such an eye opener. I mean, I'd been warned about the banter of rugby players. You've probably all heard horror stories about initiations.
Hazing or whatever they call it.
I think the particular individual that springs to mind was an Irish individual, let's just say that, and he loved to drink. We had gone away on a pre-season trip to, I think we're down near Biarritz, and we're right on the coast, beautiful setting overlooking the bay.
Lovely.
We'd had a big pre-season game, big hit out. We normally go on a pre-season trip to France, have a couple of matches, train all week, and then come home just as a change of environment, get the warm weather. And but normally French teams were a little bit further on in terms of their prep, so sometimes we used to get beaten up a little bit as well, because we were still preparing. We started a little bit later, but we had this big game against this team, and as a reward, the manager says, "Okay, lads, we'll go out, we'll have a few beers.
Yeah.
So we've gone down to the Ritz, and the lads are out and really enjoying themselves. And we congregated the coaching staff on this nice sort of veranda where there was a few locals, some French people. Everybody's enjoying the ambiance, the atmosphere. And this individual came up the flight of stairs wearing a wrestling max, doing some sort of haka, and then decided that he was going to, he called it his Mickey.
Okay.
His Mickey out.
Yeah.
And have a wee into his pint pot.
Yeah, like you
and
do,
then
yeah.
just drank it. Yeah, that was, and I thought, what the hell is going on?
Health disclaimer here. There's probably some evidence out there that proves that that's actually got some, some amino acids or something in it, but we're not actually.
This was before some people started
don't
saying
do that,
health
kids.
benefits in it.
Okay, so
but that was one of the tamer stories. And I
Crikey.
think I'd probably reserve it before.
Yeah. All right then.
Keep it. But there are plenty of things.
All right. So what's interesting? What I've learned from Mark is that Mark worked in elite rugby with a world famous professional rugby team and full of internationals, but didn't actually come from a rugby background himself. And what's interesting is how some of the world's greatest coaches in football didn't actually play football at the highest level. Arsene Wenger, Jose Mourinho, Alex Ferguson, even Pep. Pep's he played for Barcelona. But ordinarily, they say some of the world's top coaches in different sports and in the NBA. Some of the top coaches in basketball at the elite level in the NBA, they might have played it at school or even college, but they didn't play in the NBA. What we're seeing now recently, in the last 10 years, a lot of the head coaches for teams in basketball did play basketball in the NBA. So it is changing. There's a balance there.
Yeah.
How does that translate to rugby now in 2023? All the coaches at the elite level, at the top flight rugby, did they actually come from a rugby background themselves?
I'd say the majority do. And I think if you have played the game, and if you've experienced the physicality of the game, it obviously puts you in very, very good stead.
Yeah.
And that was one of my regrets, really, that I'd not played it and not experienced the physicality and the collision nature of sport, what that actually feels like. Well, like I said at the beginning, I think I went in with fresh eyes and a confidence that I could help you.
Yeah.
I know I've not played and experienced the game, but I can help you get quicker.
Yeah.
I can stand there in front, I can help you feel more powerful. I can help you get stronger.
That resonates with everyone.
And that resonated with everybody, irrespective of whether, and actually I can help you feel better after the game. I can help you recover. And I think that's where my strengths really came, irrespective of whether I'd got caps and whether I played in the front row and whether I'd been battered.
Gotcha.
And I've got ultimate respect for them. My first experience when I saw that very first game was, oh my God, it's just carnage.
Yeah.
And after a game, the aftermath, when you're helping them take the shirts off and you see the level of battering and beating up.
What was the average age? What was the average age of the players then? Starting players.
Yeah, we got some good youngsters coming through, but the more sort of front row players, they tend to mature a little bit later. So probably sort of late 20s, 30s. Their dad strength and man strength kicking in, and they've spent more time getting stronger. They're technically better, so they tend to mature a little bit later. Okay. The backs probably peak in the mid to late 20s from a speed point of view and a muscular point of view, and then it's kind of a slow sort of gradual decline with those guys. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, rugby's just it. There's no part of the body that doesn't get beat.
Gotcha.
Anything from their feet to the top of their head, and but that gives you as a practitioner a big kit bag of skills, because you've still got to train.
Yeah,
you've still got to try and find a way to get some adaptation, to get some load, or to get them through the week so that they're ready to play again. Yeah, a bit different, than the physicality in football. So that's why being chucked in at the deep end with rugby is I would recommend it to any young practitioner coming through.
Gotcha.
Work with those individuals, because they'll make you very good at what
you've got to work with them rather than against them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd heard or I'd read that in the NFL, in the American National Football League, that the average player lasts 3 seasons. Their bodies stand up to 3 seasons. That might be because they're not good enough at the sport to play at the elite level and they get cut early, or they might get severe injuries, or they just go down to lower leagues. So if the average in the NFL is approximately 3 seasons, maybe some quarterbacks that have lasted, the Hall of Fame quarterbacks, or some wide receivers that have lasted for years, but generally three seasons or 3 years in the NFL, and most of them are out or they're not in the starting lineup. How's that like in rugby?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say there's similar demands, isn't there? They have huge squads, don't they, where they're rotating a lot of players, and massive budgets as well, don't they? But Yeah, in rugby, good players, if they're lucky, you know, they'll still keep quite long careers if they come through a good academy system and they've built their bodies and they've earned the right to cope with the game at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I always use that term. You know, they've been through a good pathway and they've experienced good physical preparation. They'll be robust enough to cope with it. I don't know what the structure and the sort of calendar is like for American football. How I think it's every Friday night, is it?
Yeah,
they
well,
game a week
they play they play less than they play less than 20 games a season.
Okay, so,
as in in the league.
Okay, and we're saying that some of those players can only survive pretty much 3 years. It's an alarming statistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the recompense and the finances in rugby is very, very different. Some of the lads that I've worked with have clocked up hundreds of appearances. It's incredible. They take that amount of abuse for the rugby season and then go on international or alternate international tours and play for them, represent their country. They're incredibly robust individuals.
What is generally the cut-off age? What would you say an age for a prop? What a prop? You know?
Yeah, again, I think probably early 30s for those boys. There's only so much the body will take. And I think it's quite evident more recently and highlighted about the concussion rates. So there's a lot more awareness about that. And part of my role was, to help prepare the neck, strengthen the neck. The science behind that now. And neck strengthening is far more advanced than what it used to be. They used to do all sorts of boxing type drills. And things like
combat
that.
athletes do.
A lot more is isometric holds, and they're using a lot more technical devices and quite sophisticated instruments as well to measure the forces that are going through the head and the neck as part of the physical preparation, so they can cope with it.
A coping mechanism, a physiological coping mechanism for players. All right. Okay. So if we look at another sport again, I'll think about a sport that I follow. I follow. I've played golf just amateur, just for fun.
Me too.
Okay, we hear about We hear about football players, basketballers, and some even boxers taking up golf as a side hustle or side sport, or taking up after the sport. Does that go for rugby? I don't hear about big 25-stone rugby players playing golf.
Oh no, definitely. A lot of my former sort of colleagues are good golfers, very good golfers. Good ball players. You normally would find that the big long backs, the locks and things like that, they've got big swings. The sort of the 9s and 10s are always neat. They're good sports people. Good eye-hand coordination. They pick things up. Fly halves and that sort of thing. They're normally very good sports people.
Gotcha. Okay, so they
fancy themselves as footballers a lot of times, players, but
well, that might be a good thing money-wise, but maybe not.
It was always quite interesting if we ever got football out for a bit of a warm-up. It's carnage sometimes, especially when you've got big men running around.
I bet. All right then. So out of ignorance, when I think of rugby, what little I know, I always think of in terms of a nation. And this is out of I don't know anything else or better. I just think of the All Blacks, the New Zealanders, and in the same way that some people who don't follow football or soccer, when they're thinking of the nation, they think of Brazil as football. All right, gun to your head now. What is the best, not club, but the best nation in world rugby at the moment?
I think South Africa are going to take some beating, aren't they? In this recent World Cup, they look so strong. But Ireland are chucking it about as well. They've got clearly a good system going on there as well. But I think gun to my head, I think South Africa.
South Africa. From someone who's got expertise in the rugby field, then we're guessing that South Africa are going to win the rugby.
Look, I think they're a strong team, mate. I think All Blacks will take some beating, won't they?
All right.
I've not actually looked at how.
Could they meet in the final?
I'm not sure.
Is that the best final? Is that one that people would like to see?
A repeat of the South Africa Ireland was incredible. South Africa New Zealand, if it's possible, that'd be awesome as well.
Okay. All right. So just to cap it off, I happen to know that Mark, eventually you moved from rugby into another field. You dip your toe and you're still in it now at a great level, which we're going to do in another video. You came into my world in such a way, and you went into personal training. And I can tell you that's another story. All right, which we'll cover in another video. So we've got with me today, just to recap, it's the Over 40s Fitness Podcast Show. My name's Tristan Lowe, and I've got with me Marc Finney, and all things rugby, strength and conditioning, and now an elite level personal trainer. But we'll come to that in the next video. Anything to say, Marc?
No, just thanks ever so much for
My
the
pleasure.
conversation.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, mate. I'll see you next time.
Please remember to like, subscribe and share, and we've got some more stories. Okay, until the next one. Thanks for watching.